Welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. Today's episode, James and I will be breaking down Dane Brugler's top 100. He dropped the beast, so we got to talk about it. There's some players in his top 100 we don't agree with. There's some players we had to go and watch today who we hadn't watched previously before seeing them in Dane's top 100 and more. Before we dive into that episode, I do want to take this moment as well to continue to promote that James and I will be going live on YouTube after the first night and the second night of the NFL draft. So tune in with us for that, as well as I will be dropping my draft guide on April 20th, the Monday before the draft. So if you are a paid subscriber, you will get access to that. If you are not a paid subscriber, you better become a paid subscriber if you want access to that. It's going to be 200 scouting reports, rankings, and more. So tune into that. But until now, that's enough for me, and let's get into this episode with James.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to the Substack DaftOnDraft.football, where you will get access to all of these charts on Google Drive for every quarterback in the class, access to insider information on the Discord channel, film rooms every single week, live chartings every single week, big boards, positional rankings, more and more. So make sure you are tuned in.
All right, so we're talking about Dane Brugler's top 100 today. Dane dropped the beast. An excellent piece of art every single year comes out. Props to Dane. That thing is over 600 pages long. If you have not seen it, dive into that. Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Good work every year. With that, he dropped a new top 100 as well. It is at the back of the beast as well. If you don't feel like going through every single position and adding it up yourself, it is in the back there. He has got his top 100. So James and I are going to go through this thing, kind of point out where we agree, where we disagree. James also has his, if you're watching on YouTube, has his own website pulled up, comparing Dane's board to consensus, so we can kind of talk through that as well. But should be a fun episode today. Should be a fun exercise. James, thanks for the visual, man. This is beautiful.
Yeah, that's why I needed 30 minutes. But hey, Beast Day, national holiday for draft analysts. Finally learned Vega Iowane's birthday, which I haven't known all year. So yeah, a lot of birthdays I've been filling in. Haven't even really gotten to the reports. I usually try to like not read other people's reports because I don't want to phrase things the exact same way. But especially like once it gets, approaching the draft and there's like a day 3 guy that I'm just not going to get around to. Love going through the beast. And yeah, excited to compare his rankings to the consensus board.
Yeah, I've got my board pulled up here. Again, my board's not completely complete. I'm still grinding out towards the end here. I have film grades pretty much all finalized. I do have like some upside scaling I still have to do for players. And so guys like on my board, like Avion Terrell are pretty high still, but he's probably going to get knocked down a little bit based off of like an athletic profile. Some stuff like that as well. So because even before his pro day, he didn't perform super well on his jumps either, up to snuff. So kind of follows through a little bit there with the 40 time. I do think the 40 times over exaggerated. I don't think he's a 4.6 athlete, but I do think the hamstring was bothering him there. But that's all topic. Let's dive in here. We're going to break this thing down by 10 players at a time here. So looking at the beast, players 1 through 10. Number 1, Ohio State. He's got him listed as edge, Arvell Reese. Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame running back at 2. Fernando Mendoza, Indiana quarterback at 3. Sonny Styles, Ohio State linebacker at 4. Caleb Downs, Ohio State safety at 5. 3 of the top 5 from Ohio State right there. Number 6, Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU. 7, David Bailey, edge out of Texas Tech. 8, Spencer Fano, offensive tackle out of Utah. 9, Ruben Bain, edge out of Miami. 10, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, wide receiver. James, where do you want to start this conversation?
So I think this might be the grouping that has the least to talk about because, he's got 10 of the top 11 on the consensus board. Compared to my rankings, like I have, Styles and Reese flipped, but yeah, this is kind of the top 10 prospects in the class. So I would say it's a nice chalk top 10.
Yeah, for me, I still have Jermon McCoy in my top 10, obviously, from 2024 tape. Also have Jordan Tyson in there yet, too. I haven't quite figured out how I want to finalize the Tyson report because the tape is obviously beautiful, but like, how do we figure out the rest of the stuff there? So the 2 players he's got in his top 10 that I don't have in mind would be Mansour Delane and David Bailey, but no big complaints here. Yeah, pretty straightforward. All right, 11 through 20 here. 11, Francis Maui Noah, offensive tackle, Miami. Vega Ioane, guard, Penn State at 12. Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC, 13. Jermon McCoy, corner out of Tennessee, 14. Keldrick Falk, edge out of Auburn at 15. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, Oregon. Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle, Georgia. Dylan Thieneman, safety, Oregon. Caden Proctor, offensive tackle, Alabama. Jordan Tyson, Arizona State. So he dropped Jordan Tyson all the way down to 20 on his consensus board here. And if you can look at Tyson's kind of trend, it is trending in the downward direction there. It seems like there are some real questions about his toughness from what Dane's scouting notes were in the Beast here. So again, I have Tyson at 4 based purely off tape. I'm trying to figure out how to figure out the rest from here with how to deal with that. Typically, I'd let the tape be the tape, but that seems like a different circumstance. You're muted.
Let me ask you this about Tyson, because I don't think we've talked about it since the discussion's been happening. What do you think about his, like, not mental toughness necessarily, but toughness as a football player, like at the catch point, through contact, all of that? Because Daniel Jeremiah had that clip that went out where he was, critiquing his toughness. I worry a little bit about the play strength, like playing through contact in his routes. I didn't really see toughness as an issue, but I'm interested if you did.
I didn't see toughness either. There's some reps where, I mean, he's playing with unbelievably bad quarterback play down the stretch as well, where like he's running digs across the middle and having to adjust football like on his back hip in some pretty tight windows and stuff like that. So like I don't really see it as a major issue. I mean, he's always going to be a slender built kind of guy and pretty injury prone to this point in his career. I don't think I saw like play strength issues at the catch point the way that I think Daniel Jeremiah did.
Yeah, for me, the play strength has always been just like at the top of routes. The Kelly Jones matchup against Mississippi State. Mississippi State's always got like super long corners. But like there were some quick slants where he just kind of got engulfed at the break point. So, play strength would probably be my biggest ding for him. But the way that he, plays above the rim at the catch point, I don't really see toughness as a major issue. This like 11 through 20, I think, is really indicative of kind of some late trends as far as like where guys are going to go. Keldrick Falk going a little bit higher. Freeling it has kind of been thoroughly discussed at this point, but like Proctor, I think is firmly a top 20 guy, and then Jordan
in the right direction.
And then Jordan Tyson rounding out the top 20.
Yeah, the Keldrick Falk stuff is interesting as well because, I mean, if you look at Keldrick Falk's trend, that's nowhere near 15. Based off that trend right there. So to see Keldrick Falk, okay.
Yeah, so like
it is a little bit.
October, he was, 4th, 5th, and then down to 18 currently.
That's still really high. That's still really high for me. I know what he did at the pro day, and at that size, it's impressive. And I understand he's young, and so like you can indicate a ceiling a little bit there based off some of that stuff. The tape is from this past season is concerning. But again, Dane knows kind of like what's going around in the league. So if people are feeling this out like this, then that might be what it is.
And like, how many first round mocks have we done where we're sitting there like picks 12 through 20, and every team that comes up, we're saying, I would love to take an edge for them here, but there's no value. I just feel like realistically, there's going to be one team that views Keldrick Falk as good enough value to take in the teens.
Right. And again, the 40 time is good, but like the 10-yard split, the get off time is still 29th percentile. The vertical jump is 63rd, broad jump 40th. I don't think he's like overly explosive, even like the 40 time. So, but I guess some of that paired with 34-inch arms at 6'5", 276, you got to kind of adjust for that a little bit. But to see Keldrick Falk still 15, there's two guys actually in this section that I've got pretty far down my board, and that would be Caden Proctor, Keldrick Falk at 42 and 44 for me on my board. And I know I'm low, and I'm okay with that. I can live with that. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again, but I'm going to trust my eyes on some of this stuff and go with it. But that's where those two guys currently sit for me.
There's worse bets to make than on an Alabama tackle not working out in the NFL, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, some of that conversation is really interesting because I think you go back to the Saban days, and I really do think some of those Saban offensive linemen were just like ground down to the core by the time they got to the NFL. So like their college tape is splendid and it's awesome. And then obviously this is before NIL stuff too with Saban, except for the back part there. They finally get a paycheck. It's like probably the first time in a long time they feel like they can breathe. Uh,
Yeah.
it's interesting though with the Bama stuff with DeBoer now, if that stuff's going to remain kind of the same. But I do think Saban offensive linemen are the one kind of areas you can helmet scout a little bit because of that kind of grindstone mentality. I think that's all I got here. No other big outliers for me.
Yeah, me either. Want to move on to 21 through 30?
Yep. 21 through 30. Casey Conception and Omar Cooper, two wide receivers back to back there. Emmanuel McNeil Warren at 23. Chris Johnson, corner out of San Diego State, has his corner 3 and at 24. Caleb Lomu, 25. Denzel Boston, 26. Avion Terrell, corner out of Clemson, 27. Akeem Mesidor, edge, 28 out of Miami. 29, Blake Miller. 30, Colton Hood. So the big thing that sticks out to me is that Dane, NFL scouts he's been talking to, kind of Clemson mock drafts as well, would tell you that picks 20 through 30, we could see wide receivers and corners fly off the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a good chance that 3 corners and 3 receivers come off the board between 20 and 32. With Terrell's injury, it makes it a little bit more tricky, but yeah, really strong for the skill, the boundary positions here. I love Chris Johnson at 24. I've had him in the late 20s, early 30s, basically since the fall. Heard about Chris Johnson because he was like somewhere on Dane Brugler's corner list, so I'm not taking credit for it. But yeah, Chris Johnson, one of my guys in this class. Avion Terrell still at 27. I'm glad that, you know, he's still kind of bullish there that he's not like dropping to the back end of the second round or something. But yeah, those would be my 2 takeaways from this tier.
Yeah. So Lomu is a guy that Dane was like lower on in the season too. So Dane's
Oh
got
yeah.
up. Like he was in like the 40s for Dane in season. Wasn't in first round mocks for Dane. So Dane's kind of come up on Lomu a little bit here too.
And then like Akeem Mesidor, I'm interested. I still don't buy it.
I don't either. He's one of those guys like I don't know. By the time we get in 2 weeks from now, is he really going to go in the first round?
Yeah, he seems like he could be a surprise faller of like the consensus first round guys. But I mean, his tape, like I've heard a lot of people say like his tape is better than Ruben Bain's in a lot of ways. I don't really agree, but you know, he just has so much production and he's such a skilled pass rusher that I can see people liking him. It's just it's such a traits position, and at 25, it's like I legitimately don't really think there's any upside left to tap. So he is what he is, and he doesn't have a bull rush. So
Right. I was gonna say if you take the slants, go to his tape and take all of the slants out of it, what's left of Akeem Mesidor's tape?
Yeah, it's a lot of stunts. I mean, I think that, you know, relative to a lot of college edge rushers, I still think he got a lot of one-on-one wins, but he also got a lot of opportunities. Yeah, I think he's like a back end of day 2 guy. In all honesty, it's just, you know, at a position like that where it's so much about having an athletic edge over your opponent. For somebody who's like an adequate athlete, there's really no realistic room to grow. Like it's hard for me to see where the major shifts are going to come in his game. So I think he's probably like a high end 3, low end 2 is how I would project him.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Rotational guy for sure. All right, 32 through 40 here. So 32 is where our first defensive tackle comes off the off of Dane's top 100 here. 32, Caden McDonald, Ohio State. 33, Max Ahinachor, offensive tackle of Arizona State. 34, Chase Bazantis, guard, Texas A&M. 35, Peter Woods, consensus top player in the class preseason. 35 here on Dane's board now at the end of the year. 36, your guy Malachi Lawrence. 37, Zion Young, both edge rushers out of USC and Missouri, respectively there. 38, D'Angelo Pons, corner out of Indiana. Love to see it. 39, Cassius Howell, edge out of Texas A&M. 40, and linebacker 2, again, counting Arvell Reese as an edge rusher on Dane's board, Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech. So from like, as much as we talked about corners and wide receivers from 20 to 30, from 30 to 40, we could see a nice little edge run as well here.
Yeah, I like Malachi Lawrence and Zion Young over Cassius Howell, even though they're all kind of like in the same clump. That's how I would have them. I think they've both got way more prototypical frames. Obviously, Cassius Howell has the get off and really the bend. I think is what's more of a valuable trait for him. But yeah, I think I've mocked Malachi Lawrence in the first round. Our last couple mocks. Could definitely see him being a top 35 pick. So love the shout out.
Yeah, the D'Angelo Pons thing, it seems like the NFL is really bullish on this guy despite him being 5'8". And I think when you look at the traits and you look at the tackling tape and you look at some of the stuff that you think could translate inside, and that's not to say I don't think he could play outside, because I mean, you look at Mikey Sainristil, I think he's a better prospect than Sainristil. Sainristil kind of holds his own out there in Washington. Again, the bigger receivers, like you go watch the Jeremiah Smith, and again, it's Jeremiah Smith, right? But like, D'Angelo Pons couldn't have been in better position or played with better technique and still gave up like 10 for over 100 in that game. So that's the kind of stuff that worries me. And I think his skill set translates really well inside too. That's not me just saying he's small, he needs to play inside, but you watch him punch blockers, you see him fit the run when he is nubbed off, you see the hip fluidity in both directions, and that's what makes me really bullish that he's a day one nickel. Jacob Rodriguez, top 40.
One thing on Pons, I think like I added a new thing on my board, which is like secondary position. So, instead of just having corner, I've got like boundary corner, nickel, etc. But I put D'Angelo Pons down as a boundary corner or nickel, because like I'm with you. I don't think that the size cutoffs are as stringent as they used to be. I mean, with how much quarters people play nowadays, like a Darius Williams career path for D'Angelo Pons is like super easy to see. I actually think that he's pretty good at the line of scrimmage because his feet are so quick and his transitions are so smooth. I think that he struggles in press man sometimes when he's in phase at the break point, because that's when receivers can use their own momentum against him, push off at the top of the route and really create separation. Like you're not gonna get open against him with like shifty moves. But with off coverage, it allows him to kind of squat on the route, stand his ground, and then he's in phase at the break point, and it allows him to play a lot stickier coverage through the route break. So yeah, I think Pons is scheme versatile, but obviously the fit to nickel is very clean.
Yep. So yeah, let's talk about Jacob Rodriguez for a second here. Top 40 here. Everything that I've heard since Indy is you shouldn't expect him to get out of the top 40. There's at least one NFC team that I know is talking about him in the first round conversation. That's crazy to me. I think Rodriguez is a fine player. This has gotten really rich in my opinion. We talked about it. Actually, I talked about it with TJ when you were out, but I think the Rodriguez conversation has gotten a little rich.
Yeah, I've been with you the whole time. I mean, a linebacker that with his lack of take on ability, I think I rewatched his tape the other day or some of it, and I had forgotten how for all of the flashes, I had forgotten how inconsistent he was in zone coverage. Like, yeah, he would be a 75 to 100 pick for me. I can't see it over CJ Allen.
Yeah.
And I'm not like enamored with CJ Allen. It's just, I think he's such a rock solid prospect as a run defender. And then there's a lot of flashes in coverage, like way more flashes in coverage than you would normally see for a college linebacker that you would say struggles
Mhm.
in pass coverage. So that indicates that there's some realistic upside that he could hit there. So um, yeah, that's a hard one for me to really square.
Yeah, I'm not in love with CJ Allen either. He's 33 on my board, so not too far off here. But that's a good segue into 41 through 50 here. 41, Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver, Alabama. 42, Ty Simpson, quarterback, Alabama. 43, Christian Miller, defensive tackle, Georgia. 44, R. Mason Thomas, edge rusher out of Oklahoma. 45, Brandon Cisse, corner, South Carolina. 46, CJ Allen, linebacker, Georgia. 47, Chris Bell, wide receiver, Louisville. 48, Jake Golday, linebacker, Cincinnati. 49, Gabe Akis, edge rusher, Illinois. 50, Anthony Hill Jr. To me, there's a polar bear in Arlington, Texas, in this section.
Yeah.
But again, consensus has been higher than I have on him the entire way. Dane's got even lower than the consensus board, and that would be Anthony Hill Jr. But I mean, Dane's even lower than him than consensus, so I can't argue with it too much. I guess it's just gonna be another one of those players that I'm pretty low on. But going back to CJ Allen for a second, again, consensus board 29, 46 here on Dane's board, 33 on my board, so a little bit in the middle there. I think he's rock solid, man. I'm just again not enamored with him in terms of like the physical tools, the punch, the block deconstruction. Again, I think the IQ is really high, um, and the coverage skills are there as well. But uh, 46 feels low for a guy we were talking about as linebacker one over guys like Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, and summer scouting. Um, yeah, that's what I got there.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, I guess, for like a 6 foot, 230-pound linebacker that didn't test. But yeah, I think his run defense tape outside of like the last couple weeks of the season, um, some of the cleanest in this class, Ohio State linebackers excluded. The rest of the 41 to 50 range is like kind of uneventful. I mean,
Yeah.
very close with consensus here. I just finished up my final Ty Simpson evaluation today, so he's fresh on my mind. Still kind of the same opinion. I don't have like a ton of new takeaways, but I think the other, we're kind of a broken record on Anthony Hill. It's just like
Yeah.
it's the role. Like I don't know what role he plays, because like the big thing with Anthony Hill is that I don't trust him to take on blocks. Like I think that's the biggest thing that's missing from his tape is um non-run blitz, like
Right.
run fits, like uh being able to diagnose the play when you have run pass responsibilities and conflict, and you're not just being told to scream downhill. He's really good at that. But yeah, the block shedding ability, coverage is pretty erratic, although he is pretty rangy, a lot rangier than I thought he was heading into the year for sure. But yeah, I think he's like a fun third or fourth rounder.
Yeah, I'm lower on both him and Golday. I know consensus is right there
I'm
on
a little
Golday
lower on
too.
Golday as well.
Um, just so much overhang stuff, and he's a lot stiffer
Mhm.
than a linebacker than I'd appreciate for a linebacker, and it's a complete projecting him to stack at Mike. It's just a complete projection, or even playing stacked at will because he's playing so much overhang at Cincinnati. So, a little bit lower there as well. Let's move on. 51 through 60 here. This is where we're going to get real funky. 51, Jadarian Price, running back, Notre Dame. 52, Caleb Banks, defensive tackle, Florida. Keontae Scott, safety, 53, Miami. 54, Kieran Crawford, edge out of Auburn. 55, Lee Hunter, defensive tackle, Texas Tech. 56, got him listed as quarter, Traded Stukes, Arizona. 57, Emmanuel Pregnon, guard, Oregon. 58, Malachi Fields, wide receiver, Notre Dame. 59, Antonio Williams, wide receiver, Clemson. 60, Deny Dennis Sutton, edge rusher, Penn State.
So this
We're
is
getting we're getting funky.
this is a group of edge rushers that I would not like to be choosing from. I would say at least picks 50 through 60. I mean, they're kind of like two ends of the spectrum of each spectrum to me. Like Denied Dennis Sutton is all traits and just no feel for the position. Kerryon Crawford is an outstanding football player, really technically sound. Um, the kind of player that needs to become really technically sound at the college level to be productive. Uh, so they're both early day 3 picks for me. Although I do think you know, there's reason to bet on Sutton, and then I think Crawford gives you some value as like part of a rotation. But yeah, those two edges are the biggest deviations from my board so far.
Yeah, I have Sutton 89. I have Crawford 105. So that's kind of where
Out
I'm
of
at.
how many players?
Right now, I have 175 done.
Hey,
Going to get 25 more to go here
there we
before
go.
I drop my guide. So a little promo for my guide there too. 20th, the Monday before the draft, looking to drop it. Okay. Yeah, the Lee Hunter stuff feels like a roller coaster where he's been projected to go. The testing data is definitely not going to play out in his favor, so I do think this is probably more in line with where he will go, based on what he did at the combine, especially that vertical jump. My lord, he's way more explosive on tape than that, though. So, like, to an extent, I'm going to let the tape be the tape. But that is interesting. Stooks has the widest variance of outcome from analyst to analyst, I feel like, as well. And I think Arif Hassan actually confirmed that he's collecting boards right now to build his consensus board, and he's like, yeah, this guy's variance is all over the map. So, interesting there. Antonio Williams way higher than Zachariah Branch as well. I have those guys got it in the same tier and much lower on my board. So, interesting there. Again, I'm a gadget hater. It is just a preference of mine, a bias of mine as well. So I'm trying to work against it, but that's pretty high for me too. Malachi Field's still at 58, despite the 40 time is there too.
Yeah, I think with Malachi Fields, I thought the first round hype was ridiculous. Then he runs the 4.62 or 4.61, and then everybody stops mocking him in the first round. I think people came to the right conclusion for the wrong reasons, because like speed is I'm not worried about Malachi Fields vertically really, but it's change of direction. It's the ability to separate on anything besides a go post or comeback.
He's very much he is what he is prospect.
Yeah.
But I do think we go through every year we have these post Senior Bowl big boards that drop that we get a lot of Senior Bowl reactionary rankings as well. Malachi Fields was definitely one of those.
Yeah.
All right. 61 through 70 here. Keith Abney, corner out of Arizona State. 62, Keelan Rutledge, guard/center, Georgia Tech, who had a first-round mock draft from Peter Schrager this week. 63, Eli Stowers, tight end, Vanderbilt. 64, Dominique Orange, defensive tackle, Iowa State. 65, Caleb Tiernan, offensive tackle, Northwestern. 66, Max Clare, tight end, Ohio State. 67, Deshaun Stribling, wide receiver, Ole Miss. 68, Davison Igbinosun, corner, Ohio State. 69, Elijah Surratt, wide receiver, Indiana. 70, AJ Holsey. I'm going to take a moment to just talk a little bit about what I love about draft content the most. It's like, I feel like for the most part, people's top 50s are like, yeah, I get that. Yeah. That sounds good. That's cool. You get from 51 on, and it's a freaking wild, wild west from analyst to analyst. Like, we're going to talk about some guys here that I know you have ranked in your 100s. We're going to talk about some guys here that are kind of all over the map that I have ranked in my 100s, that come down to evaluator preference a little bit as well. And that's what makes this stuff so fun. So, James, I'll let you bat lead off here. 61 to 70 here. What stands out?
So kind of going in order, we talked about Keelan Rutledge in the mock yesterday. Another player that I just finished my eval on. I think the first round hype with him is a little bit ridiculous, but I've really warmed up to him as a potential day 2 guard or center. I mean, now that he's snapping and you've got that possibility, that adds a little bit of value as well. But I said it in yesterday's episode, I think my initial evaluation, I watched 4 games, and it was 2 of his worst games, including the NC State one, where it was brutal pass pro. Just could not mirror anybody across his face to save his life. So yeah, that was the 4th game I watched, and I was like, okay, this dude's a good puller, but he's stiff as a board.
Yep.
So it's like an early day 3 pick. But I mean, watch the rest of his tape. I didn't really see that show up as a major issue, like the Clemson game week 3, and it was a couple pull protections. Like, he is not the most fluid athlete, and because they pull so much, I actually thought that was one of the areas he struggled with in pass pro, where he kind of like arrives with a full head of steam and then he's got to redirect. But yeah, I mean, he's an ass kicker in the run game, tested a lot better than I think most people were expecting. I can pull up his combine here. Yeah, 4.54 short shuttle. That's the money drill right there. 7.54 3-cone, 32.5-inch vertical. Really solid. So yeah, big fan of Keelan Rutledge. Well, not a huge fan relatively, I guess, to where he's being mocked, but fan of him here at 62.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit lower on Rutledge because I do see a little bit of that tightness on tape, and I think more so it's with the pad level. He plays really high cut. He's got a nice natural anchor though, so it doesn't really impact him. He's got good core strength, but I mean, it does impact him a little bit. But so I have a 4th round grade on him.
Every run block is a jump set.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a little less bullish on Rutledge, but I can buy into the mindset of an interior offensive lineman that Rutledge has. And I can live with that for sure. Do you know he has 8 toes?
Wow.
Fun fact. Yeah.
Is it
Little
4
nugget
and
from Alex
4?
Katzen. That's a good question. I don't know that. Alex, if you're listening, we need to know if it's 4 and 4 or if it's like 5 and 3 or 6 and 2. That would be bizarre. But yeah, Keelan Rutledge, 8 toes. For me, looking at this one, Keith Abney's been my guy since preseason or since summer scouting. So cool to see him still in that like 2nd round range. Another guy I think can play outside or nickel as well. With that feisty demeanor. Again, Eli Stowers, my preference of tight end. If you're a pure F tight end, I need to see really good separation at the catch point, at like the vertical point. I know what the testing data says, but I also know what I saw on tape. And if you watch a lot of his man-to-man reps, he's got defensive back straight on his back when he's making these catches and stuff like that. So not a huge Eli Stowers fan. Definitely, I mean, in 12 personnel, he's not even on the field in a lot of times, so they don't even incorporate him in the run game. A little high on Caleb Tiernan too. I just don't know what to do with an offensive tackle like his build there. I know you were a lot lower on Elijah Surratt. This is about the range where I have Surratt slated on my board, so I can live with Surratt around like pick 70.
Yeah, it's earlier than I would take him, but I don't think that's an egregious placement. It's just, yeah, I mean, I value guys that can beat press man. I feel like if they haven't played a snap in the NFL and we're already like bargaining about how they're going to be a big slot, it's like, when does that ever?
Yeah. I guess the conversation for me is like pick 70. We're talking 3rd round.
Yeah,
pick.
right. Exactly.
It's like you're trying to find a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 as a 3rd round pick, like a role player. And the savvy in the ways that he does win, it's just like I just feel like he's gonna find a way to like have a mind meld with some quarterback at the NFL level. So that's what stands out to me there. Deshaun Stribling, we got to talk a little bit about Stribling because we on this podcast have been like talking about Stribling since what, November, December of like,
yeah.
I mean, I remember doing a podcast with Sam Teets when you were out once of like, we were talking about, it was a after draft or a mailbag. And somebody asked like, who's a day 3 wide receiver who's going to outproduce his draft slot like a day 3 wide receiver does. And I said Deshaun Stribling. Well, guess what? I don't think he's going to go day 3 anymore. So it's cool to see the Stribling rise to this point where he's 67th and Dane has him graded as a fringe 2nd to 3rd round player now.
Yeah, Stribling, I mean, it's easy to get drunk on those last 5 games of Stribling tape and like start going crazy with the grades. I think I said this on the receiver episode, but like if you just separate the first 8 or 9 games of the year, it's not draftable tape. But what he did on the vertical plane down the stretch, I mean, against the best competition that they faced, just easily cooking press man, consistent vertical separation. I think, was it Georgia, the way that he transitions to runner after the catch? He can't run any other routes though. And it's not an Ole Miss offense thing where like it's not a route tree thing. They run him on other routes and he's actively unable to separate on them. So and the change of direction drills, I think, line up with the tape for Dejon Stribling. Okay, that's actually a little bit better than I remembered it, but 4.36 shuttle. Yeah, I have, of the guys that I've done full ratings for, I have Stribling and Malachi Fields as comfortably the worst intermediate route runners.
Yeah, to me, he is an insert wide receiver at the NFL level, but
Yep.
like insert wide receivers are becoming the next big thing. And obviously, like Puka is the 99th percentile on the field. Puka is the 99th percentile outcome of like that new breed of like big slot insert receiver. I think like a baseline comp for him, and this player's a little bit bigger than him, but like Jawan Jennings is the player that I keep coming back to for Stribling as well. Like that's the baseline comp, I think. And if you can get a Jawan Jennings, even in the second, third round, I think you're taking those odds. And so I firmly think he's going to be one of those guys you're going to draft and immediately be like, yeah, we got to find a way to get this guy on the field just because of the body of work he does at the little things.
And he's going to be able to get on the field early because he's a good run blocker. So that's not going to be something that's keeping him on the bench.
Right. All right. 70 through 80 here. 70, AJ Hulsey, safety LSU. 71, Jennings Dunker, guard Iowa, listed guard here. 72, Ted Hurst, wide receiver, Georgia State. 73, Josiah Trotter, linebacker 6, Missouri. 74, Tyler Onyedem, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. 75, Kyle Lewis, linebacker, Pitt. 76, Zachariah Branch, wide receiver, Georgia. 77, Derek Moore, edge rusher, Michigan. 78, Zakee Wheatley, safety, Penn State. 79, Travis Burke, offensive tackle, Memphis. And 80, Romello Height, edge rusher, Texas Tech. So right off the bat here, I'm going to say that this is where we have the first player that I have not watched enter the
Me
fold.
too.
Really, two. I watched one today to get caught up on him. And the reason I haven't watched Travis Burke yet is because I'm recording it inside the film room for video content on the Substack. So if you're a paid subscriber, look out for that coming on probably, today's Wednesday night, Friday morning. This is an interesting one, and I want to start the conversation with Tyler Onyedem because he's the other one who I hadn't watched until today when Dane dropped this. I now have Tyler Onyedem at, hold on, Command F, 77 on my board after watching him. His body of work against the run game is like do not play on early downs. But at 6'3", 290, he is ungodly slippery as a pass rusher. The hip fluidity to reduce his surface area and take away targets for blockers to strike. Do you think he's a little tight in the ankles? So when he has those opportunities to corner, I don't see the ability. Like he kind of stalls at the top of his arc a little bit. But the hip fluidity to reduce the surface area. His arm over move is filthy. It is a filthy move. A nice little club rip as well along the outside shoulder. Do you think if he could develop a counter, we're talking about like an 8.5 sack per season kind of guy once he starts to age into the NFL. I'm not saying it's going to happen as a rookie, but like an obvious pass rush situation, defensive tackle, unbelievably slippery, unbelievable arm over. And then I even think his lower half, like the short area quickness, he forces oversets and forces guards to commit their weight before crossing back across their face with that club rip. Or I've seen him hit a spin move or the arm over. Like that's his bread and butter is forcing the guards to commit their weight, crossing their face, hitting them with some sort of like instant win. So I had a lot of fun breaking down Tyler Onyedem today and writing him up when I was going through Dane's top 100 and seeing like who haven't I watched yet on this list.
Yeah, I liked Onyedem a lot during the season. Not quite at 74, but he's like I think a fringe top 100 guy for me. Yeah, super juiced up pass rusher, just like you said, very limited in terms of his role, not going to be an early down guy. But yeah, I mean, in this class, I think, I wouldn't hate Onyedem in like the 80s or 90s, especially with the way that defensive tackle, I think, kind of dries up.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the reason that I haven't, if you want to look at James's visuals here, if you're watching on YouTube, I wasn't even going to watch these guys because I'm like in crunch time to get my guide out. Because they're sitting 205 and 232 respectively on the consensus board between Onyedem and Burke here. So, but Dane's forcing my hand here, so I'm going to watch him here and knock him out for my guide. But really impressed with Onyedem. We'll see kind of what I think about Travis Burke. Have you watched Travis Burke yet?
No, dude, just what I need. Another tackle to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I just dropped
gonna
my
get to
tackle
him.
rankings piece this week too, so that's fun.
Perfect.
I might have to go back and edit that one. But
I've seen a bunch of people like tweeting clips of him though, so I know he has a lot of hype.
yeah,
Definitely need to get to him.
I feel good about the leveling out of the Jennings Dunker placement as well. As a guy who's been really low on Dunker the entire draft cycle, I still do think that 71 is still too rich for my blood with Dunker. But as a guard, you can kind of see the movement skills, the athletic traits a little bit, where he doesn't have to true pass set. He doesn't have to worry too much about protecting his outside shoulder as much as a tackle. I can stomach selecting Jennings Dunker at like 71.
Yeah, I'm with you. That would still be too early on my board, but I think he's gonna go a lot earlier than I have him ranked.
Me too. I have him ranked, if we want to get into this and talk about how big of a hater. I have him 153 on my board right now.
I'm gonna guess I have him 107. Let's see, 108.
Okay, yeah. So you got him even higher than I do. So yeah, if you want to talk about a prospect that's been aura farmed in this draft cycle, I think that Dunker is the firm candidate there. The Iowa offensive tackle with the redhead mullet and the barbed wire tattoo. And anyway, I guess Josiah Trotter is just going to be a guy that I'm going to bang the table for. And I do know like the ACL, and he hasn't been able to do anything pre-draft because of the knee injury. I do know that that's out there. I think Josiah Trotter is still LB3, considering Arvell Reese is a linebacker as well, and a top 30 player in this class. I'll go out on a limb on that one. I'm okay to be wayside on consensus on that. I love the tape. I love the tape.
I think he's. I'm not quite there on top 30. Like I still, the coverage is so bad. But he's very young and inexperienced. And the tenacity that he takes on blocks with, for somebody who is not like a prototypical stature, is just so impressive. And yeah, I feel like his demeanor is going to have a place on most defenses.
Yep, I would agree with that. And again, he did not test, but his top play speed is 88th percentile. His elite play speed is 72nd percentile. Like, he's not a bad athlete. So, like, I can live with this. I can live with that. So, yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb on Trotter. I'll do it. Like, I was out on a limb on Leo Chenal in 2022 as well. I had him as a top 20 player.
Really?
In that class, and linebacker 1 in that class as well. Probably a little bit too high on Leo Chenal, but I was talking about like over guys like Devin Lloyd, who finally came on this year, and Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. Like that was that linebacker class, and I feel like he's held his own against those group of guys. So just going to be a guy I'll pound the table for. All right, 81 through 90 here. 81, Garrett Nussmeier, who, by the way, was FanDuel's way too early quarterback 1 of all of college football in January of 2025. And he's sitting 81 on the consensus board now. Or not on consensus board, on Dane's board. 82, Brennan Thompson, wide receiver, Mississippi State. 83, Keyshawn Elliott, linebacker, Arizona State. 84, Bud Clark, safety, TCU. 85, Mike Washington, running back, Arkansas. 86, Oscar Delp, tight end, Georgia. 87, Malik Muhammad, Texas, corner. 88, Jalen Kilgore, safety, South Carolina. 89, Jake Slaughter, his top-graded center in the class from Florida. And 90, Bryce Lance, wide receiver, North Dakota State.
I had 90 as Sam Hecht. I must have input that wrong.
Sam Hecht is 92.
Okay. So what happened is, I copy and pasted it from. Anyways, this is where, especially towards the back half, where I start to have the most disagreements.
Yeah,
I guess just like Jalen Kilgore, to me, I've never seen it. I mean,
nope.
He gets beat constantly in man coverage. It would involve, playing a position that he doesn't really play. So, he's got athletic traits, but we are in the 80s. So I guess that's not too bad. Jake Slaughter, we talked about, is just like it's amazing how average to above average he is at everything,
Yeah.
Um, I think he could definitely I think he probably projects as a baseline level starter in like a zone scheme, but I don't see uh any traits that are worth betting on in the top 100.
Uh, If you were giving out superlatives for this class, I feel like Jake Slaughter would be most likely to run for Congress after he retires in this class. Put a suit on him, give him a little pin, trot him out to the podium.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
very he's very non-controversial. Just I think Connor Liu would be that way. Just like not a lot of losses, but Slaughter. I mean, his hands are really good. He's experienced. Yeah, I think he's got a route
yeah.
as a starter for sure.
Yeah, we're looking at a nice little run on centers here from like 89 through 95 on his board, where 3 of them come off and none of them are
Oh yeah,
Connor Liu. Connor Liu's not his top 100. Um, so yeah, Malik Muhammad's an odd one. I have him 110 on my board. Love the Oscar Delp love. Obviously, I have Mike Washington running back 2 as well, so I'm higher than him on Mike Washington, and I can live with that. Um, Overall, not too many disagreements here. Again, Garrett Nussmeier, QB3 at 81. I have Garrett Nussmeier, QB3 at 95. So, like, that's a 14-point difference when we're talking the end of the 3rd round here. So, not too much to argue there. Bryce Lance, I can definitely see the tools, the trades, why somebody would want to take him top 100. Really raw in terms of every aspect of his game, outside of running in a straight line really fast. But I could see the appeal there as well. Biggest complaints here, would be Kilgore Muhammad for me, but from 81 to 90.
yeah. And for people watching on YouTube, the order is a little bit messed up because I took it from where he just had it sorted by round grade, so it's the order isn't perfect for 80 through 100, but it's generally the same guys. Um, so let's see, looking at the athletic list, I guess Malik Muhammad would be the other guy from this list that I disagree with, but I do love the
Yeah.
Keyshawn Elliott. Uh, love it at 83. I think he's just a kind of like a Jake Slaughter of linebackers in a way. More, I would say like a Sam Hecht of linebackers.
Yeah.
Um, Chandler Rivers, I think is somebody that I gave a late day 3 grade to. I thought his tape this year was pretty disappointing. I know he's got a lot of fans. His 2024 tape was much better. I think that was the first Daft on Draft episode I did, was like I guest hosted over the summer for Corners. I think we talked about Chandler Rivers.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So Chandler Rivers is actually 91, but that's a good segue into the last part here. Um, he's 86 on my board, so like not too far off here. But like 86 is a mid 4th round grade for me on my grading scale right now. So 91 Chandler Rivers, corner Duke. 92 Sam Hecht, center Kansas State. 93 Justin Jolie, tight end NC State. 94 Jalen Farmer, guard Kentucky. 95 Logan Jones, center Iowa. 96 Chris Brazel, wide receiver Tennessee. 97 Markel Bell, offensive tackle Miami. 98 Dalen Everett, corner Georgia. 99 Deion Burks, wide receiver Oklahoma. And 100 Jayshon Barham, edge rusher Michigan. So shout out Deion Burks. I'm a big Deion Burks guy. I love Burks. There's so much about what he does as a wide receiver leading up to not getting the football that makes me want to buy in. Both through his time at Purdue and at Oklahoma, he has not played through great quarterback play. I
I
understand
remember
why, like,
I remember
yeah,
loving
go
his
for it.
Purdue tape.
Yeah.
Go ahead though. Yeah.
I understand why Dane's a little bit lower at 99. I have him 56. I would take him before either Antonio Williams or Zachariah Branch. If we're going like small, shifty receivers, I'm taking Deion Branch over both those guys, or Deion Burks over both those guys. So I love it. Big disagreement here would be, again, we're talking now fringe top 100. Big disagreement here would be Dalen Everett. So Everett, I went back and watched some more tape today, and when you were talking about John Stribling, I almost brought it up because I watched that Georgia game, and Stribling had him in a blender in that game. And for a guy who ran a 4.38, a lot of it is like he is struggling to get back in phase on the vertical plane in that game.
I was
I
shocked
think
he
he's
ran a 4.38, dude. He gets toasted on the vertical plane consistently.
He is
Unless they play Texas, he's like an all-pro corner against Texas. It's kind of like Elijah Surratt with Oklahoma or with Oregon.
Yeah, he's unbelievably high hipped too. So like any chance to try to flip his hips and get back downhill, it takes him like 2 steps to get his momentum shift and change directions. His base is pretty wide, and I think he does a decent job of mirroring and press man, but like I think his gate's a little slow to open, so he's constantly in recovery mode and press man too. It's like I feel like a corner's top job is to cover, and I don't feel comfortable playing him in either man nor zone coverage. So I know you had floated the idea that maybe he's a safety earlier in the season.
Yeah. That was just me coming off of watching like an awful game and like wanting to change his positions. It wasn't really about anything great he showed that would project at safety.
Right. So that to me that's not anywhere near a top 100 player. I have Everett, and again I have 25 more to watch. I have 175 on my board. He's 164th on my board right now.
I like Chris Brazel at 96 though.
I do too. We overshot the mark on Brazel. I have Brazel 103. Probably going to come up a little bit again with that upside indicator with how he tested, but yeah, I have Brazel 103, so I'm right there with Dane on Brazel.
Jalen Farmer's such a tough one. I mean, you got to put him like somewhere in this range based on what he did at the Senior Bowl, Combine, and measurables. And there's a lot of good on tape. It's just he's very defined as far as like where he's gonna struggle.
Right. Yeah. You keep that boy in a phone booth, you got a mauler. You got an elite pass protector. You ask him to move a little bit, we're struggling. We're struggling a little bit. So
Jayshon Barham's like the 40th best player on this list, in my opinion. Maybe like top 50.
Really?
Yeah, he's gonna finish at the top 50 for me.
Dang, that's not gonna be the case for me. I'm pretty down on this edge rusher. I have him 91 though, so I'm not super far off here. Not super far off. All right. Do we want to go through players in our top 100s that didn't make the cut here in Dane's top 100? I feel like that's a good exercise to go through here.
So if I go back to this tab, what I can do is let's start by sorting by consensus and just see if there's any like players that didn't make the top 100 that are ranked super high on the consensus board. So left is the consensus, right is Dane Brugler. All right. So these exact rankings are estimates because he just has like a list sorted by round grade. But in general, this is kind of where he has them ranked. So first big difference, Kamari Ramsey. I agree with this. Looks like, Fran Duffy, Dane, Lance Zierlein, the 3 lowest. He's a tough player because there's the difference in scheme from 2024. I feel like I've said that so many times, but it's like I don't think I wasn't like blown away with his tape, his 2024 tape. I thought he was like solid. I actually liked him more as a quarter safety because I thought his click and close was more. I thought he was more of like a click and close short area burst guy than range. This year, he cannot close space in zone coverage to like get into passing lanes. It's an issue. So the athleticism for Kamari Ramsey like was notably worse this year.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to buy in on the 2024 tip because I thought he was a really instinctive single high, really anticipatory, rangy single high. So that's a big difference for me right there as well. VJ Payne, another guy. There's a lot of safeties actually. VJ Payne, Kamari Ramsey, Genesis Smith, all 3 safeties in my top 100 who did not make the cut here.
Yep, he's got Joshua Josephs 75 on the consensus board, just outside of the top 150. Jonah Coleman, Daryl Jackson, Genesis Smith, or he's got his kind of like 4th round grades. Michael Trigg, 86 on the consensus board, 191. When you're a player with Trigg's skill set and lack thereof, you just can't really survive a 2nd percentile vertical jump as a tight end.
No,
I don't think,
not at all.
especially if you've got other issues. LT Overton, that I'm surprised to see him at 129.
I'm
To
not.
me, he would be firmly like a priority free agent or like, late day 3, but he has had flashes of looking like a potential, day 2 pick. So could definitely see still holding some stock there. And then Jacoby Lane, I'm not going to push back on that ranking at all.
Nope. I feel pretty good. Yeah, Skylar Bell 131, maybe a little bit low for where I'd have him, and then Devin Moore, that's really low for Devin Moore.
I wonder if he's got bad medicals. Or at least he did throughout college.
How do you feel about the Grayson Holton ranking right there too?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, he gets
121.
caved in against the run. So it's like very confined to a gap shooting, DPR type of impact. So I think that's probably appropriate value.
All right. Well, we just chopped that up. Got a lot going on there. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. James, you got anything else? We should, again, we got the live stream coming up here. We need to get through that on the 1st and 2nd nights of the draft. So tune into that on YouTube. We'll be live streaming that up, taking questions, living it out. Anything else, James?
That's all I got.
That's all I got. Well, until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. See ya.